For hole 3, we're going with the Thor 6 or 7 hook. Now, I have seen opponents make this shot with an EM9 and an APOC 5 using globes and just a regular shot down the fairway with a max overpower regular shot. So it can be made over with an EM9 and an APOC 5 or 6. You're just going to take a regular shot. I do not know the slice rings for those clubs. But for a Thor 6, you're going to basically have your red ring touching the rough stretched out. You will over adjust your shot with a 0% elevation, push up to max, and then count 16 rings for a Thor 6 and 17 rings for a Thor 7. When you go to take your shot, you're just going to pull straight back into overpower and then slice your shot. The only reason I'm doing a little bit of right curl is just because I'm right-handed and it just keeps doing that for some reason. So again, I'm stretching out to my red ring touching the rough on the left. I'm going to then over adjust my shot with a 0% elevation, push up to max, and then count my rings, 16 rings for a Thor 6 and 17 rings for a Thor 7. Pull back all the way when you take your shot, and then you're going to basically slice your shot with full overpower and no curl. It's important to adjust your shot because there are 2 different wind angles and the ball will fly quite a bit differently if you don't do that. If you just go to a target spot, you will end up not making it over. So here again, I'm putting my red ring next to the rough on the left. I will then over adjust my shot with a 0% elevation at max distance, push up to max, and then count 16 rings for a Thor 6 and 17 rings for a Thor 7. I'm using full top spin with 1 left spin. When I take the shot, I'm pulling straight back, and then I'm going to do a full slice. The only reason I didn't change to a berserker, I could have changed to a zerk. I was just lazy and didn't do it, but I just wanted to see how high of a wind was too high, and I haven't found that. So don't be scared if the wind is too high. I actually prefer it just to be on the safe side. So again, my red ring is going to be on the rough to the left. I'm going to over adjust my shot with a 0% elevation at max distance, push up, and then count 16 rings. Then when you go to take your shot, you're going to do full overpower and a full slice, and try not to curl the ball, just pull it straight back. The accuracy between a Thor 6 and 7 is actually quite a bit, so you really need to adjust your rings when you play with a Thor 7. So here my red ring is near the rough. I then adjust my shot at 0% max and then push up and count my 17 rings. As you can see, I'm actually quite a bit further away from the rough line on the left when I start on my starting point. So make sure you do adjust your shot at 0% max and then count your rings. If you do not do this, I will show you why it is important to do that, because in one of my next videos I will show you the result of not adjusting your rings. So here, for some reason, after I went to a zerk, and then when I went to adjust my rings, I thought it looked weird, and so I was like, oh, I think the blue ring just needs to be by the rough, and then I'll count my rings. Well, I should have just trusted the adjustment. So here I started off correctly. I had the red ring next to the rough. I adjusted my shot at a 0% elevation. I pushed up to max, and then you can see me move my rings over to the blue over. I was way too far left, so trust your adjustment. So make sure you have your red ring at the rough to the left. You adjust your shot, and then you count your rings from there. Here, it just did not go right. So here is the result of not trusting the adjustment and only having the blue ring next to the rough and then counting your rings. It will not work with a Thor 7. You need to adjust your rings, otherwise you will not make it over and you will end up in the rough. So here's the correct way to do it. You are going to put your red ring next to the rough, max top spin, 1 left spin, and then you're going to adjust your shot at 0% elevation at max distance. After you adjust your shot, you're going to push up to max and then count your rings from there. You're going to count 17 rings for a Thor 7, 16 rings for a Thor 6, a full overpower slice shots, and try not to curl the ball. So just to show you what the second shot looks like, you're going to want to bring your kata or your big dog, depending on which is the better accuracy and the more distance of your club. So I have figured out that this is actually going to play at a 0% elevation. This was played at 5% elevation and I almost clipped the rough. So you want to play this at a 0% elevation at max distance if you are in max distance. If you get further up there, you might have to take a couple points off if you're not in complete max distance. You are not going to do more than a half a bar of topspin. You can try and do 1 bar of topspin and see if you want to try and get a little greedy and try to get the albatross, but you are just trying to get up there for putting distance at this point because we don't have the ball guide to find the funnel. So again, I wouldn't use more than a half a bar of topspin, otherwise you can risk going up and over the green and having to use a rough iron to try and save eagle. So here we are playing again with the Thor 7, max top spin, 1 left spin, red ring by the rough, and then you're going to adjust your shot with a 0% elevation at max distance, and then you will count your 17 rings. A Thor 6 will be 16 rings. You're going to do a full overpowered slice shot without curling the ball. And remember guys, hit perfect or slice. Happy golfing guys, and good luck this weekend.